I'm going to begin by seeking unanimous consent to enter into the record a press release from last year from the Department of Defense entitled, Department of Defense announces recruiting and retention numbers for fiscal year 2022 through March of 2022, and it reads, overall, it is clear the broader recruiting market continues to deteriorate and recruiting shortfalls can no longer be solely attributed to COVID-19.
Without objection.
So we just heard from Secretary Austin moments ago that COVID was the driving headwind. The headwind was the term he used in these recruiting challenges that trouble us all. But the department is saying that it's not COVID. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out, what do you guys think is the driving factor of the recruiting collapse that we are currently overseeing? Any of you who are particularly interested?
Representative Gaetz, that's a great question, and what we are seeing is that it's not just one factor. It is a variety of factors when we look at obesity, physical fitness, misconduct, behavioral health challenges, knowledge gap. Of what we saw from our data was that individuals that we surveyed identified that they would be potentially putting their life on hold if they serve. So not attributable to one single factor, but a multitude.
I agree with that. We've got a younger generation that's too dumb, fat, slow, addicted, and on video games to be eligible to serve in the military. And it's really troubling to hear that the response is to thin the soup rather than to do what we can earlier on, maybe through our education system or our nutrition programs, whole of government, to try to get a greater share of our folks capable. Does anyone here attribute any of the recruiting challenges we face to the new DEI push? Any of you? Raise your hand if you do. None of you. Well, I would suggest that that is misguided. I have heard directly from people that this embrace of DEI and white fragility and white rage harms our recruiting effort in the area of the country where we do our best recruiting, in the American South. I have additional questions for you, General Miller. How many Republicans running for Congress had their personnel records unlawfully compromised by the United States Air Force?
Thank you for that question. So we did have a PII breach, 11 individuals overall. Their data was released.
Well, you say breach. When I hear breach, what I hear is that like someone hacked or broke in or got the information. You gave this information.
Yes, we did. No,
right.
the Air
So
Force
it wasn't a breach, it was an illegal release.
It was yes, it was.
Right.
You're right. We take full responsibility
How many?
for that. 11.
11.
Yes.
And all Republicans, right?
I don't know the answer to that. I know some of them were, but I think that.
But if I represent to you that it's all or almost all Republicans.
Almost all Republicans, that's correct, yes.
And this information was given to the due diligence entity, right?
There was an entity, yes. It was.
Yeah, and it's an opposition research entity that gets hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee and the Democratic Senatorial campaign apparatus, right?
I don't know that much about due diligence, but I know that we released the information inappropriately.
Why did you do that?
It was an error. We did an investigation as soon as we found out. We notified all of the members in which their data was released. We have put in place multiple layers of checks and balances. We did a retraining.
Who's been fired for doing this?
We have taken the appropriate action.
Okay. Who's been fired?
We've taken the appropriate action.
It's a fascinating answer, just not to my question. Who's been fired?
I can't answer that.
Has a single person been fired?
I do not know the answer to that.
Shouldn't you, though? I mean, here we are having recruiting challenges. You guys are releasing personnel information of predominantly Republicans to a Democrat opposition research firm. You run personnel for the United States Air Force, and you can't tell me whether anyone has been fired for this unauthorized release?
Congressman, I can tell you that we have taken the appropriate action.
Well, but you
the
deem
OSI.
it appropriate. But what if we don't? Because we have civilian control of the military. Mm-hmm. We may have to change our laws to hold people accountable. And pardon me for not trusting your vague reference to the layers that you've put on. But, Mr. Chairman, I request that this committee get specific answers for what the accountability regime was for this unlawful action by the United States Air Force, and that we not take as an article of faith the representation that they think they've taken the appropriate action. They've taken the illegal, inappropriate action to compromise these records, and I think we should hold them accountable for it.
On that note, General Miller, for the record, can you submit to the committee what those appropriate actions were?
We certainly may.
Okay, I yield 5 minutes to Representative Houlihan.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Turn on your notifications so every time I put out a video, you can know about it. It'll come up in your feed. Hit that like button if you liked it. And be positive. Peace.